अभी डिस्टर्ब मत करो।
जय श्री कृष्ण चैतन्य प्रभु नित्यानंद श्री अद्वैत गदाधर श्रीवासादि गौर भक्त वृंद हरे कृष्णा 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 हरे 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 राम 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 हरे 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 कृष्णा. So we will continue the Queen Kunti's prayers. Last time we discussed it till the 26th verse. I'm sorry that last time we had to abruptly end the class. Suddenly some other meeting started in the same ID. So I couldn't convey it as I don't know how to actually again start the meeting. So we were discussing the 27th verse. I will actually again begin with the 27th verse. Namo akinchana vittaya nivritta gunavrittaye atma ramaya shantaya kaivalya pataye namaha. In this particular verse, Queen Kunti is saying, I offer my respects to that person whose treasure is unalloyed devotees. Akinchana Vittaya can mean that Krishna, whose treasure is unalloyed devotees, or Akinchana Vittaya can refer to the devotees whose treasure is Krishna. So I offer my respects to the Lord whose treasure is the unalloyed devotees, Akinchana. So Vitta means wealth or treasure. The Lord has a treasure as the Akinchana devotees. And Nivritta Gunavrittaye, who is devoid of any material interest, or who is actually beyond the three modes of nature. Atma Ramaya, who is self-satisfied, or it can mean that who is disinterested in those who are not devotees. Shantaya, who is peaceful, or another meaning is that who forgives his devotees, who forgives the seva aparad committed by the devotees, who forgive, not the nama aparad, who forgives the seva aparad committed by the devotees. Kaivalya pataye, and who is the master of liberation, or who helps even those people who desire liberation. Kaivalya pataye nama. To that Supreme Lord I offer my obeisances. So we see, this is a very beautiful verse. The previous verse, Queen Kunti spoke about how there are actually 4 obstacles. Janma, Ishwarya, Shruta, Shribir, Yedamana, Madapuman. These 4 things are actually many times act as an obstacle. And because when a person becomes proud of these Janma, Aishwarya, Shruta and Shri, one cannot feelingly chant the holy names of the Lord. Even I think Bhakti Vaibhav Prabhu mentioned a question. I will also address those questions in due course. Mentioned if these 4 things are actually an obstacle, why does actually Krishna mentioned in the Bhagavad Gita those people who have begun the process of yoga, begin the path of transcendence, but who are not achieved maturity or perfection in that path. Why does Krishna say that he will actually allow them to take birth in a rich family or in the family of great brahmanas? Shuchinam Shrimatam Gehe Yoga Brashtobi Jayate Prapya Punya Kritam Lokan Ushitva Shashwati Samma Shuchinam Shrimatam Gehe Yoga Brashto Bijayate. So when we talk about these four, Janma, Aishwarya, Shruta, Ashri, they are, it's not that when a person becomes proud of these opulences, then it becomes an obstacle. But definitely taking birth in a good family, cultured family, it helps a person to actually to develop good culture, and it helps a person to practice devotional service if he is born in a family of devotees. And taking birth in a rich family, like his material needs are satisfied, and because of that he can actually focus on the spiritual life directly. So in that sense, taking birth in a rich family is also helpful. And similarly, knowledge, and this was also one of the questions she asked. Knowledge. So these four things, they are helpful for a person to understand. That is why Krishna says that an imperfect yogi is given a chance again to take birth in a family of rich people or in a family of cultured people. But Queen Kunti, what she says is that when a person becomes proud of these opulences, Janma, Aishwarya and Shruta, Ashri, then one cannot feelingly call out the holy names of the Lord. So that was the main point of Queen Kunti's prayer. So we, like for example, taking birth in a say rich family or stable family, like when there is a material stability, then a person also thinks about some higher purpose of life. Those people who are not even having a basic material stability, then they cannot most of the time they cannot think about the higher purpose of life. If we introspect ourselves also during this COVID crisis, devotees in the temple, definitely different temples are suffering financially, etc. And many devotees also. Last week I was talking with an elderly Mataji, she like 74 years old. She was saying that how her husband died very young, and then they don't have a own house, and one of the elder son died young, and then another son, even he's not able to earn money properly, and there is also different difficulties in the family. And she was saying that like sometimes I feel a little angry feeling towards Krishna, like why I'm getting so much of suffering. There is neither financial stability, no own house and no fixed income, and also family is also there are many problems in the family also. So but she was like very honestly she was revealing. But so the point is that many times when people have a when people don't have a material stability, it becomes difficult for people to, although we say philosophically, siddhantically, bhakti is independent of anything, but practically speaking, when a person does not get food for the next 2 meals, although there may be different financial crisis, etc. during the COVID, but at least we are getting the meals. Definitely, I will say that maybe the devotees staying in the temple, at least I can say for Radha Gopinath temple, there's definitely financial crisis, but at least by Krishna's grace, we are getting the 3 meals more than like what I deserve, definitely. So, and we are able to discuss philosophy peacefully because the belly is also full. But so therefore Krishna gives opportunity for that person who has begun the path of yoga but not completed it. He gives an opportunity to take birth in a stable rich family and also in a cultured family. But Queen Kunti's focus of point in the verse is that when a person becomes proud of these opulences, then one cannot feelingly chant the holy names of the Lord. So it's not that these opulences are in these when a it doesn't mean that when a person has actually taken birth in as a good family or in a rich family, one should curse that. No, rather we can actually utilize that opulence in the service of Krishna. And when a person has some education, Shruta here, Queen Kunti is referring to the Vedic education. Somebody is a learned scholar in the Vedas. Okay, in the current time, we can see in terms of maybe education is a good degree, doctor or engineer, whatever, education, a reputed college, that can be considered as a Shruta. But so one can actually utilize those opulences. One can actually utilize those opulences in the service of Krishna. So therefore, the Queen Kunti's point is that being proud of those opulences. Again, there was another question asked about like knowledge. Last week we discussed about how Kunti Maharani said that Prabhupada writes in the purport that women have they naturally accept the authority and they have a simple service attitude, and whenever there is a religious gathering, they actually come in large numbers. So like I discussed about the point about faith. Krishna says that if we have faith, and if you are lacking the intelligence, I will give the intelligence. Dadami buddhi yogam tam. But if you don't have the faith, but if you are highly intelligent, but Krishna does not say that I will give the faith. Now, faith is something which we are expected to develop. So, in generally, women they easily develop faith, and they easily develop faith. So, in that sense, they are in an advantageous position. They have a natural service attitude. All that has to be done is that they have to be direct. They have to direct the service attitude towards Krishna. So it is not that we are discounting the importance of knowledge, because when there is a faith, but the faith is not combined with the knowledge, the faith can also be shaken by others. In one sense, the Kanishtadhikari has faith in actually serving Krishna, but he does not have proper shastric knowledge. Therefore, his faith can be shaken when he meets people who pose some opposite arguments. So therefore, we always see the importance of there should be a samanvaya, balance between the buddhi and the bhava. Buddha bhava samanvita. Faith is there's a feeling of the heart, but the faith should be founded on the knowledge. Faith should be, when the faith is without logic and reasoning, then that kind of faith, it goes into the violent direction. It goes in the fanatic direction. Therefore, faith is a feeling of the heart, but that feeling should be combined with the buddhi, the intelligence, which is sharpened by the Shastra. So therefore, there has to be a combination of, there has to be a samanvaya between the buddhi and bhavana. At the same time, if a person focuses only on the buddhi, intelligence, and reading the Shastra, but if a person does not cultivate the practical service attitude, then his knowledge of the Shastra or his devotion is covered by the knowledge. And that is why Jnana Karmadi Anavritam, we say. Jnana Karmadi Anavritam, that means devotion should not be covered by Jnana. So definitely the Shastric knowledge, especially devotional scriptures, help us to develop the Sambandha Jnana, which help us to practice Bhakti. But in the course of reading the Shastra, if we lose the sense of practical service attitude, then our devotion is getting covered by the Jnana. And also there are items of sadhana bhakti like not reading too many books. Suppose when a person is very hungry and thirsty, when a person is like really weak, and when he eats food, then he becomes energetic, he gets energy. But if the same person, if he ends up overeating, if he eats more than required, then what happens to him? Then instead of becoming energetic, he becomes lazy. He would end up sleeping for many hours. So eating food is actually, it helps a person to become energetic, to perform activities, but overeating will make a person actually lazy, and it will make a person sleep for many hours like that. So similarly, that developing knowledge, it helps us to actually serve properly. It helps us to actually develop the right consciousness to serve properly. But at the same time, when we read too many books, or when we are actually spending all the time reading the books, then it can also cause some intellectual gluttony, or it's like because of reading too much, and if that reading too much is not accompanied with some practical service, and if it is not accompanied with sharing the knowledge to others, explaining it to others, so then only reading too many books will also actually cause some intellectual gluttony. Means like one can become, instead of a person becoming energetic to render service, one can become lazy also. So therefore, there has to be the that is why Prabhupada writes in a purport in the Madhavendra Puri establishing the Gopalji deity, the Chaitanya Charitamrita. He says that one cannot be a lover of he explains that simply the reading of the Shastra should be accompanied with practical service to the deities, practical service to the deities or the devotees. So one cannot be a lover of Krishna simply by reading the Shastra. It has to be accompanied with the practical service. So therefore, we find that this point is always emphasized about reading Shastra along with the practical service. So therefore, that way we can find the balance. So yeah, I'll go ahead. So Namo Akinchana Vittaya. So Prabhupada writes such a brilliant purport to this particular verse. I will read some of the points in the purport. So when we see Akinchana, Kinchana means something. Akinchana means one who does not have anything. So does it mean that it refers to only the utter poor people? No, it does not refer to people who are like poor. Sometimes even the pauper is proud of his penny, as there's a saying. Poor people can be proud of something. But Akinchana means one who feels that Krishna is the proprietor of everything. So one can be a billionaire, one can be a very rich person, but when he feels truly from his heart that Krishna is the proprietor of everything, then he is an Akinchana. In that sense, like Yudhishthira Maharaj, he was an Akinchana. He was an Akinchana Bhakta even after he became the emperor. There's a verse which comes in the, I think, 10th chapter or maybe 11th chapter, 10th or 11th chapter, where it is described that Yudhishthira Maharaj, although he had all the opulences, although he was the emperor, but he was not satisfied without service to the Lord. He was not satisfied without service to the Lord. So therefore, that like Yudhishthira Maharaj, although he possessed everything, but he was mainly hankering for the service to Krishna. So that is the nature of an Akinchana Bhakta. Sometimes previously, maybe a few decades back or something, like some devotees, like they had the opinion in ISKCON that like they felt that, oh, somebody is highly educated, oh, that means they cannot practice bhakti. So if you have to practice bhakti, then you leave the education in between or leave everything. Like they had some people, they had the understanding of akinchana means like akinchana means he has to give up everything. No, akinchana means it's not physically giving up everything. It means that giving up that idea that I am the proprietor, or internalizing the idea that Krishna is the proprietor. That is what the essence of the meaning of the word akinchana. So Prabhupada says here, a living being is finished as soon as there is nothing to possess. A living being, in one sense, he cannot be a renouncer in the true sense, because in one sense he doesn't possess anything. And a devotee renounces the material world for something tangible in spiritual value. The 6 Goswamis of Vrindavan, Tyaktva Turnam Asesha Mandalapati, Shrenim Sada Tuchchavat. So they were the Mandalapati, but they gave up everything as if like considering them to be insignificant. And then he says the devotees are generally without material prosperity, but they have a very secret house in the lotus feet of the Lord. They have a very secret house in the lotus feet of the Lord. So akinchana means one who has nothing to give materially. A factual devotee or Mahatma cannot give anything material to anyone because he has already left all the material assets. He can give only the supreme asset, that the Supreme Personality of Godhead, because the Supreme Personality of Godhead is the only property of the factual devotee. And then he gives the example of Sanatan Goswami, how Sanatan Goswami, like he had put the touchstone in the dustbin when the Brahmana came to ask Sanatan Goswami, being guided by Lord Shiva, can you give me a touchstone? And Sanatan Goswami said that it's there in the dustbin. So, because for Sanatan Goswami, the holy name was the property, and he put the touchstone in the dustbin. So, unless a person is able to see everything as spiritual in relation to the Supreme Lord, one must always distinguish between spirit and matter. Yeah, Uttamadhikari sees everything in relation with the Lord. He sees it, but if he is not in the Uttamadhikari platform, then one must discriminate between spirit and matter. Actually, Sanatan Goswami was in the Uttamadhikari platform. He can see everything in relation with Krishna, but still, why did he discriminate between spirit and matter? Why did he throw the touchstone into the dustbin? Why did he not see that touchstone is also a property of the Lord? Why did he not see that, oh, the touchstone can also be utilized in the service of Krishna? Because Sanatan Goswami acted like that in order to convince the neophyte devotee that material hankerings and spiritual advancement go ill together. So he was personally able to see everything as spiritual, but he acted like that to set an example for us, because we have no such spiritual vision. In order to teach to us that the greater wealth, the wealth which is greater than the touchstone, is the holy name of the Lord. In order to teach that to us, he behaved like that. Otherwise, he could see even the touchstone also in relation with Krishna, and he can utilize the touchstone in the service of Krishna. But in order to teach us that the holy name is a greater wealth than the touchstone, he behaved like that. And Prabhupada further says that by diverting our attention to unwanted things, the human energy is spoiled without achievement of spiritual realization. So, like last year, there was a World Cup cricket match was going on in England. So the final of the World Cup, it ended in such a dramatic fashion. The match ended in a tie, and there was a super over that also ended in a tie. And then finally, England team won because of scoring more number of fours. Then I saw a piece of news, like after that, when the New Zealand lost the World Cup in such a dramatic fashion, then like there was one person who was so depressed, because one New Zealand cricket team fan, he was so depressed that he came out of his bedroom after 45 days. Like for 45 days, he was so depressed, he couldn't come out of the bedroom. I saw there was one news article. And in fact, one New Zealand cricket team batsman, he came to actually console that person after a few days. But somehow he couldn't come out of that state of shock or state of depression. So we see that when people divert their attention to many unwanted things, the human energy is spoiled without achievement of spiritual realization. Prabhupada gives us one example of moon landing. So they attempt to land in the moon, but still the problems of life are not solved. And he gives an example at that time, like people spend different like so much of money for actually say cosmetics, etc. Therefore, material assets are the products of the three modes, and they foil the spiritual energy. And thus, the less we possess such products of three modes, the more we have a good chance for spiritual progress. So, Nivritta Gunavritti means the Lord, and the Nivritta Gunavritti means how the Lord is transcendental to three modes. So, Atma Ramaya. Atma Ramaya refers to the unallied devotees and the Lord. Both are transcendentally attached to one another, and the Lord has nothing to reciprocate, therefore he is called as Atma Rama. The Lord has nothing to reciprocate with the non-devotee, therefore he is called as Atma Rama. So in this way, this is such a beautiful purport. As I mentioned, that Vishnu Chakotipad says that Shantaya means the Lord remains peaceful, showing mercy to his devotee, that he does not become angry with the devotee when the devotee commits some seva aparad in the course of serving his deity form. And Kaivalyapati, that means that he also assists the devotees who are interested in liberation. Prithu Maharaj, in his prayers, when he begins his prayers, he addresses the Lord as Kaivalyapate, O Master of Liberation. But then the Lord thought that maybe Prithu Maharaj is seeking liberation, is desiring liberation. And Prithu Maharaj clarified in the next verse, no, I do not desire liberation even in the worst of difficulties, even in the most difficult circumstances. So, this is an important verse spoken by Queen Kunti. We'll go to the next verse. Manye tvam kalam ishanam anadinidanam vibhum samam charantam sarvatra bhutanam yanmita kalihi. So here Queen Kunti says that I consider you to be the destroyer of the offenders. Kalam. Kala destroys everything. And Ishanam, you are the controller. Anadi, you are without beginning. Nidanam, and you are also without end. Vibhum, the most powerful. Samam, you are equal to all. Charantam, Sarvatra, you are moving everywhere in all living entities. Charantam Sarvatra Bhutana. And Yan Mita Kalihi, you are the abode of conflicting qualities. So, these are the different qualities which Queen Kunti is describing. So when it is mentioned, we see that all these are many of the different conflicting qualities. He is equal to everyone. At the same time, he is a destroyer of the offenders. It seems contradictory. If it's equal, then why he destroys some offenders? Huh. So that is why Yan Mita Kali, the Lord is the abode of conflicting qualities. Huh. And he is moving everywhere in all living beings. But then why does he destroy some of the offenders? Huh. So therefore, even Uddhava in the third canto, when he describes the Lord's conflicting qualities. Karmani anihasya bhavo bhavasyate durgashrayo tari bhavat palayanam kalatmano yat pramada yutashrama swatman rate kidyati dir vidamiha. Even the learned sages become disturbed in their intelligence when they see that you engage in fruity work, although you are free from all desires. And people, the learned sages become disturbed when they see that you take birth and although you are unborn, and you flee out of fear of the enemy and take shelter in a fort, although you are the controller of the invincible time. And learned people become bewildered when they see that you are enjoying the householder life surrounded by many women, although you are considered as Atma Rama. And then Uddhava further says, actually, your eternal self is never divided by time. You know the past, present, and future. Therefore, you don't need to consult somebody. But still, many times you would call upon me for consultation as if you are bewildered about making particular decision, although you are never bewildered. And this act of yours is bewildering to me. So Uddhava was bewildered by remembering the Krishna, how Krishna is the abode of conflicting qualities. Yan mita kalihi. Last week also we discussed that one of the quality of a devotee which Krishna mentions in the Uddhava Gita, in one place he mentions, I think 38 qualities of devotees. One quality is that Kavi. Kavi means one who is able to reconcile the different conflicting qualities. So Queen Kunti is speaking about these conflicting qualities. Again in the 29th verse, 29th and the 30th verse, Queen Kunti says, oh, who will decide the truth about you if there is a disagreement? Actually, nobody can decide. And in that mood, she speaks the next two verses. Naveda kaschit bhagavam chikirshitam taveha manasya nrinam vidambanam nayasya kaschit dayitosti karhichit veshyascha yashmin vishamamatir nrinam. So Queen Kunti says that nobody knows the intentions of the Lord. Who desires to chikir shitam, who desires to hide himself in the human form. Na veda kashchid bhagavam chikir shitam taveha manasya nrinam vidambanam. Nobody knows the intentions of the Lord who desires to hide himself in the human form. And nayasya karchit dahitosti karhichit. The Lord does not show favor or hatred to anybody. And dveshyascha yashmin vishama matirnunam. And about the Lord, all men have different opinions. Vishama matirnunam. People only imagine that you are partial. You have no specific object of favor, nor do you have any object of envy. So here, nobody knows the plan of the Supreme Lord. Nobody, Vishnu Chakravarti says that, he mentions 3 points. Nobody knows the plan of the Lord who desires to make the knowledge of those who speculate about scripture useless. Or even the Brahma Vimohan Leela, because Brahmaji was a victim of speculation. He stole the calves and cowherd boy. That was an attitude of, he had an attitude of, he tried to speculate about the position of the Lord. He tried to actually test Krishna by stealing his cows and cowherd boys. So Brahmaji pickpocketed Krishna, but Krishna pickpocketed Brahma without even knowledge of Brahma. At least when a person is pickpocketed, at least many times people come to know that my packet, like my money is stolen. But Krishna pickpocketed Brahma without even without a knowledge of Brahma. So Brahma had that attitude of speculation, but nobody knew the plan of Krishna, that how he made Brahma's attempt useless. Even Balramji was not aware. And no one knows the plan of you who desire to play the role of human beings as Ram and Krishna. And no one knows the plan of you who desire to delude the fools by not letting them see your sweet qualities. And then the example of sun is given. Like here Krishna, it's mentioned that Krishna is equal to everyone. He doesn't hate anyone. He doesn't love anybody. So if we say the example of sun, sun shows attachment to the sunstone by giving its own qualities to the sunstone. And sun is indifferent to the blind people, and it helps the Chakravaka birds. Chakravaka birds become joyful when the sun rises. And the sun is harmful to the darkness which is used by the thieves and the owls. In that way, sun actually, different people perceive the sun in different ways. But actually, sun is not partial to anybody. The cause of the difference is the good and the bad qualities of the specific object. Because of that, they perceive the sun to be partial or impartial. So, in fact, this is the same question which Parishit Maharaj asked. Why the actually Lord is partial? Why does he always take the side of the demons? Devatas, and kill the demons? But the exact opposite question was asked by Yudhishthira Maharaj. Why Krishna is so impartial that he gave liberation even to Shishupal? Why Krishna is so magnanimous that he gave actually liberation to Shishupal? So therefore, we see that in one sense, another way to say Krishna's dealing with the devotees, the living entities, is that Krishna is reciprocal. Krishna is reciprocal. That means depending on how we approach the Lord, and Krishna reciprocates in the same way. Or another way to talk about Krishna's partiality is that, okay, Krishna is partial to his devotees, but Krishna has impartially opened the doors of partiality to all the living entities. Like Krishna does not make a point that only you can become my devotee. No, anybody can become Krishna's devotee and experience Krishna's partiality towards him. In that sense, Krishna is impartially partial. He has impartially opened the doors of partiality for all living entities. So if we think that Krishna is like Lord has to be neutral, then it is like a stone. Like it is like then it means like God is like a stone. The stone has no feeling. Stone is neutral with everyone. Then if God has to be neutral with everyone, if that means we are saying God should have a stone-like neutrality, then that would mean that nobody can develop a relationship with God. And how many people can love a stone? The stone is neutral with everyone. Can anybody develop a relationship with stone? So if Krishna is having a stone-like neutrality, then nobody can develop a relationship with Krishna. So therefore, Krishna is actually reciprocal, or Krishna is impartially partial. And so that is why once Vishnujan Maharaj asked Prabhupada, why did you give why did you give so much of mercy to me? And Prabhupada said that it is not that I gave more mercy to you than others. It is simply that you just took advantage of the mercy. You just took advantage of the mercy. So that is why even in the Bhagavad Gita, Krishna says that Suhrut, and the 9th chapter, he uses the word as Suhrut. Suhrut means the unmotivated benefactor. Unmotivated benefactor. So we go to the next verse. Janma karma cha vishvatman ajasya kartur atmanah thiriyan drisishu yadasu tadatyantan atyanta vidambanam. So, O soul of the universe, Vishwatman, you are unborn and you perform no actions, but you take birth and perform activities in the form of the animals, men and aquatics. And Atyanta Vidambanam, this is extremely deceptive. This is extremely deceptive. So Queen Kunti says that understanding the conclusions about your partiality or impartiality, your action or lack of action, your birth or lack of birth, one can relish your pastimes. This is a very beautiful point. Sorry, there is a background sound. Queen Kunti says that when can a person, Vishnu Chakravarti says that when can a person relish your pastimes? And we will talk about this point also the next verse after we discuss the next verse. When can a person relish your pastimes? When a person understands the conclusions about your partiality or impartiality, about your action and lack of action, about your birth or lack of birth. When a person understands the conclusion, that means the tattva about these, about your action, non-action, partiality, impartiality, then a person can relish your pastimes. So this point I will discuss again when you come to the next verse. So like Vishnu Chakravarti says that like you are unborn, at the same time you are born. Although you are unborn, but you take birth. And although you perform actions, but you are not a doer. And you manifest your attractive forms, attractive nature in various forms, in animals, humans and aquatics. And this is all actually extremely deceptive. Atyanta vidambanam. Because when you take birth as a Varaha, it appears that you are actually lessening your status. It appears that you are it appears that you have come under you are lessening your status. That means that it appears that you have come under the influence of the modes. Because as Varahadev, the Lord appeared, behaved like a typical boar. So when we see your pastimes as a Varaha or different other incarnations, it appears that you are lessening your status. So in general, like in this world, if we see that it is very difficult for people to lessen their status. Generally, we find unless a person has a higher taste, it becomes difficult for a person to lessen one's status. Even like in a temple, suppose somebody, because I have some example related to the temple. I'm just giving. Somebody is staying in a room, sharing. Somebody is staying in a single room, but it will be difficult for him to lessen his status to start staying in a room with one more person. So because many times our practical situations, people get affected by that. Or somebody who is in a particular, say, somebody who is used to certain level of comforts, and then to come down from that level to a lower level, to lessen the status usually it becomes difficult. It is a matter of actually prestige. So similarly, but in the case of the Supreme Lord, the fact that he actually comes down and takes different roles and comes down to the material world. Like coming to the material world, like suppose somebody from a big, say, who is staying in a Malabar hill or at a big, very posh locality of Bombay, and for him to go to the slum areas of, say, Bombay, like Dharavi and other, this one, and start staying there or visiting there regularly for some helping people, it's a very it's a lessening of status for the person. But in the case of Krishna, the fact for him to come to the material world and taking actually different incarnations, that he appears to he is lessening his status by taking different forms. But Queen Kunti says that, but it is an extreme deception. It appears that you are lessening your stature, but actually you always remain in the transcendental position. You always remain in the transcendental position. Then he says that actually, this is incompatible with the fact that the pastimes were like attractive to the Atma Ramas like Shukadeva. Like when you perform pastimes in the different incarnations as a Varaha or different as a Vamana, etc. But these pastimes are attractive to personalities like Shukadeva Goswami, you are Atma Ramas. But at the same time, we also hear in the Shastra that you are without birth, you are without activities. There are Upanishad statements which say that Lord is without birth, he is without activities, without qualities. But on the other hand, we see that when you perform different activities, when you exhibit different qualities, these qualities are attractive even to the Atma Ramas like Shukadeva. So therefore, that means your activities and qualities are not material, but they must be transcendental. So therefore, who can know the truth about the Lord possessing unlimited, inconceivable powers? So that is the mood of Queen Kunti making this prayer. And then in the next, having said that, how the Lord performs pastimes which are bewildering, atyanta vidambanam, which are extremely deceptive, which are so deceptive that even after 5,000 years, people consider Krishna to be like an ordinary man, or at most like a big statesman, or a powerful but human being. Like generally, okay, so when somebody is acting in a drama or something, or in a movie, like people, okay, understand, okay, this person is simply acting. But this is not his real nature, his real person, his real nature is something else, one understands. But the people, Krishna performs his pastimes so perfectly that even after many years, people consider Krishna to be an ordinary human being. Therefore, atyanta vidambanam, his pastimes are extremely deceptive. And then in the next verse, Queen Kunti gives an example of an bewildering nature of the Krishna's pastime. Gopyadate tvayi krita gasidama tavad yate dashashru kalilanjana sambramaksham vaktram niniya bhava bhavanayasti tasya samam vimohayati veerapi yad bibeti. So Queen Kunti, she is speaking the Damodar Leela. When Mother Yashoda, my dear Krishna, Yashoda took up a rope to bind you when you committed an offense, and your perturbed eyes flooded with the tears, which washed the masakara from your eyes. And you are afraid, though fear personified is afraid of you. And this sight is bewildering to me. So Bhagavatam says that Apanna Samsmritim Goram Yannama Vivasho Grinan Tatas Sadyo Vimucheta Yat Bibeti Swayam Bayam. Fear personified is afraid of the holy names of the Lord. Elsewhere it is said that Madbayad Vati Vatoyam Suryas Tapati Madbayat Varshatindro Dahatyagnir Mrityus Charati Madbayat. Because out of fear of me the wind blows, out of fear of me the sun shines, and the Indra sends forth rain out of fear of me, and the death actually takes its toll upon everyone out of fear of me, as Krishna says in the third canto. So, but that Krishna is afraid of Mother Yashoda. So that, like when we discuss the verse Krishnaya Vasudevaya, I mentioned that how even more fortunate than Nanda Maharaj is Mother Yashoda. Mother Yashoda had an even more intense love towards Krishna, and that is described by Queen Kunti in this particular verse. That how Yashoda had an even much greater love than Nanda Maharaj. And also Prabhupada writes in the purport that Kunti was conscious of the exalted position of Krishna, whereas Yashoda was not conscious. Therefore, Yashoda's position was more exalted than Kunti's position. And also, Prabhupada mentions that the Lord accepts the chastisements of the parents more cheerfully, and he accepts the reproachments of his fiancés more palatably than the prayers of the Vedic hymns offered by the Brahmanas. So the Lord is meticulously pleased when the devotee, out of pure affection and love, considers the Lord to be less important than himself. So I mentioned in the previous verse purport that when can a person relish Krishna's pastimes? When a person understands the truth about Krishna's taking birth and his quality as unborn. When a person understands the truth about Krishna's partiality and impartiality. When a person understands the truths about these, then a person can relish Krishna's pastimes. So Shivaram Maharaj writes so beautifully in his book. He tells that like when we hear Krishna's pastimes, that we should know the truth of Krishna's pastimes. That means that like when we are discussing Krishna's pastimes, we should also discuss the different constituents of the Lord's pastimes. So what are the constituents of the Lord's pastimes? Constituents of the Lord's pastimes are his associates, his loving exchanges, the holy abode, the moods of love, etc. And then he says that that how can a person truly understand Krishna's pastimes without knowing that his original form, the Supreme Lord, is a cowherd boy. That means, like, without understanding the Krishna Tattva, one cannot completely relish the Krishna Leela. So that is why we find that like even the Chaitanya Charitamrita, in the beginning of Chaitanya Charitamrita, first the position of the Pancha Tattva is described in great detail. In the Adi Leela, first 5-6 chapters, you hardly find any pastime. What you find in the first 5-6 chapters of Adi Leela is the Pancha Tattva. That means the position of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, Nityananda Prabhu, and there is a very long purport. How Sankarshan is not the Jiva. The glories of Nityananda Prabhu, there is a purport that some, I think 10 or 20 pages purport actually. Sankarshan is not the Jiva. So you see in the Chaitanya Charitamrita, in the beginning, the Tattva is given importance. Because only when we are rooted in Tattva, then we can relish the Leela. So, like for example, it's described that Krishna Tattva, Bhakti Tattva, Prema Tattva Sara, Bhava Tattva, Rasa Tattva, Leela Tattva Ara. So, Krishna consciousness means understanding the Krishna Tattva, Bhakti Tattva, Prema Tattva, Bhava Tattva, Rasa Tattva, and Leela Tattva. So, therefore, that Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, when he was traveling, he preached both the truth of the Lord's pastimes and the truth of the melody described in the Bhagavatam. So, when we are preaching, we should discuss the different tattva or the siddhanta in the pastimes along with the different rasas involved in the pastimes. So, sometimes the people argue that, oh, siddhanta, philosophy or the tattva, oh, it is little difficult to understand. Essentially, the main point which I am trying to drive is that one should try to understand the truth behind the Lord's pastimes. One should try to understand the philosophy, the siddhanta behind the Lord's pastime. They should be heard along with hearing the pastimes. And that is the complete and authorized process. But the objection is that oh, the philosophy is something a little difficult to grasp. But if I simply hear the pastimes, it is very sweeter. Like it is like, yeah, definitely the hearing the pastimes is very sweet. So just like for example, cardamom or camphor. So these ingredients are not sweet by themselves. But these cardamom and camphor, when they are added with the sweet rice, they enhance the flavor of the sweet rice. Cardamom is actually, it's not sweet in nature, but the cardamom, I think cardamom is kala miri, I guess. But it is added with the malpua. But when it is added with the malpua, it enhances the taste of the malpua. So similarly, the philosophical truths concerning the Krishna's pastimes may not be as tasty as the Krishna Leela. Just like the cardamom and camphor, they are not as sweet as the sweet rice. But the philosophy of the pastimes, they enhance the taste of those pastimes, just like the cardamom enhances the taste of the sweet rice. So in this regard, Vishwanath Chakravartipad, in his book Ragavartma Chandrika, he is posing a question. When discussing the Lord's human-like pastimes, like Krishna becoming fearful of Mother Yashoda, is Krishna aware of his divinity, or is Krishna not aware of his divinity? You're not able to hear. Hare Krishna. Can you hear me? My connection seems to be proper. So, Vishwanath Chakravartipad is asking that, is Krishna aware of his divinity or not? When Krishna is afraid of Mother Yashoda. Suppose if the answer is yes, Krishna was aware of his divinity, then that would mean that the taste of the Lord's pastimes would be compromised. Because if Krishna was actually aware of his divinity, that means Krishna was not actually afraid of Yashoda. He was only pretending to be afraid of Yashoda. Then in that case, Krishna's pastimes would be, it would be no more than a theatrical or a dramatic performance. You are simply pretending to be afraid. Suppose if you give the answer as no, Krishna was not afraid of, Krishna was not aware of his divinity. When Krishna was not aware of his divinity, when he was afraid of Mother Yashoda, so then that would mean that so many countless statements in the Shastra which describe the Lord as all-knowing, omnipresent, omniscient. That means all these statements are false, because Krishna is not aware of his divinity, he is not all-knowing. Then such a conclusion would actually challenge the very godhood of Krishna. So then it would challenge the very godhood of Krishna. Then it would demote the Krishna's pastimes from human-like to human. It would actually demote the Lord's pastimes from the human-like to the level of human being. The taste of the human-like pastimes and the human activities are completely different. And then, so what is the answer? Was Krishna aware of his divinity when he was afraid of Mother Yashoda? Is the answer yes or no? Then Vishwanath Chakravarti gives the answer: when engaged in pastimes, Krishna is simultaneously forgetful of his divinity and also aware of his divinity. And that is called as the Krishna was having the quality of Mugdata and Sarvagyata. Mugdata means he was forgetful of his divinity, and Sarvagyata, at the same time he was aware of his divinity. So how can both be possible? Then Vishwanath Chakravarti says that by his Achintya Shakti, both can be possible. Krishna can be simultaneously aware of his divinity and also forgetful of his divinity, because Achintya Shakti reconciles all the contradictions. So when we hear such an explanation, this explanation is like explanation which gives an understanding of the philosophy behind the Lord's pastimes, the Krishna Tattva. So when we hear such an explanation, it is truly full of wonder. And when devotees hear wonderful things about the Lord, then their love for the Lord increases. And their appreciation, when their love for the Lord increases, and then because of that, their appreciation of his pastimes will also increase. And when the devotees hear Krishna's pastimes with the increased love, then they are struck with wonder at his even commonplace behavior. So when you start loving a particular person, then you will be struck with wonder even with the common ordinary activity of that particular person. Like for example, like in the relationship between the mother and the child, because when the mother is having love for the child, because of having love for the child, even the ordinary activity of the child speaking a particular word first, even that ordinary activity of the child will be actually, the mother will be struck with wonder. The ordinary activity of the child will appear extraordinary for the mother, because the mother has love for the child. So similarly, when we hear Krishna's pastimes with love for Krishna, then even the apparently ordinary activity of Krishna will be struck with wonder. So then how can we develop that love for Krishna? That is by understanding the Krishna Tattva. And that is by understanding the Krishna Tattva. So therefore, the activities of Prabhupada writes in Nectar of Devotion, the activities of a person, even if they are not very extraordinary, create an impression of wonder in the heart and mind of the person's friends. But even very wonderful activities performed by a person who is not one's friend will not create any impression. It is because of love that one's wonderful activities create an impression in the mind. And how can we develop that love? By actually hearing the truth about the Krishna's pastime. That means hearing the Siddhanta behind the Krishna's pastimes. So yeah, with this I'll go ahead. Now in the next 4 verses, so therefore the sum and substance of our discussion is that in order to relish the pastimes, one has to know the tattva properly. Just like in order to relish the rabdi, one should have a proper digestive capacity. And the digestive capacity to relish the Krishna Leela is created by hearing the Krishna Tattva. So now in the next 4 verses, Queen Kunti explains the different reasons for Krishna's appearance. I will go through them fast. Kechidahur ajam jatam punya shlokasya kirtaye yado priyasyanvavaye malayasyeva chandanam. So Queen Kunti says that some people say that although you are unborn, you have taken birth in the Yadu family in order to increase the fame of Yudhishthira Maharaj. Just like sandalwood originating in the Malaya hills gives fame to those hills. So according to some people, you have appeared in this world in order to increase the fame of Yudhishthira. So Queen Kunti is speaking different opinions about the cause of Krishna's appearance. Because the Punya Shloka can refer to Nala Maharaj, it can refer to Yudhishthira Maharaj, but here in this verse it especially refers to the Yudhishthira Maharaj. Punya Shloka refers to Yudhishthira Maharaj. Or another meaning of this verse is that you appeared in the dynasty, in the Yadu Amsha, in order to glorify the Maharaj Yadu. And this is also explained by Parishit Maharaj in the beginning of the 10th canto. Yadoscha dharma shilasya nitaram muni sattama katram shena avatirnasya vishnur viryani shamsana. So we say that please describe in detail about the pastimes of Krishna who appeared in the Yadu dynasty, who was a dharma shila. Therefore, Krishna appeared in the Yadu dynasty because Yadu was dharma shila. Or Krishna appeared in the Yadu dynasty in order to increase the fame of Yudhishthira Maharaj, who was a great dharmic person, who was a Dharmaraj, who was a great devotee of Krishna. So we see, if we see both in Krishna's appearance and disappearance, Krishna appeared in the Yadu dynasty because Yadu was dharma shila. And the same Krishna, in his disappearance pastime, he did not protect the curse upon his families because the Yadu Kumaras, they broke the principles of Dharma by disrespecting the Brahmanas. So when the Yadu was Dharma Shila, Krishna appeared in the Yadu dynasty. But the same members of the Yadu dynasty, the Yadu Kumaras, when they acted like an adharmic people by disrespecting the Brahmanas, then Krishna did not protect the his own family. So therefore, we find that how Krishna is actually, that is why there are so many names in Vishnu Sahasranama which are in relation to the word Dharma. Many names of Vishnu or Krishna in relation to the word Dharma. Dharma Viduttama, Dharma Vit, Dharmi, Satya Dharma Parakrama, Satya Dharma. Like that, many names of Krishna in relation to the word Dharma. So we have many names of Krishna in relation to the word Dharma, and we have many names of Krishna in relation to the word Bhakti. Bhakta Vatsala, Bhakta Vatsala, and like Sadhu, Sadhu Rakshaka. Sadhu is a Bhakta. There are many names. I have written somewhere the list of names of Krishna in relation to Bhakti and list of names of Krishna in relation to Dharma. So therefore, becoming Krishna conscious means that we become conscious of both these aspects of Krishna. We become conscious of the how Krishna loves people who practice dharma and how Krishna loves the devotees. Because we have names of Krishna in relation to bhakti as well as we have names of Krishna in relation to dharma. And that is why Prabhupada said, like 50% of my mission is to establish Varnashram Dharma. Because Krishna comes to establish Dharma. And of course, the purpose of Varnashram Dharma is ultimately to give Krishna consciousness. Atapumbur Rajasreshta Varnashrama Vibhagashaha Swanishtitasi Dharmasya Samsiddhar Haritoshanam, to please Krishna. The ultimate purpose is to distribute Krishna consciousness. But in order to facilitate that, Varnashram Dharma also has to be established. So therefore, we have to understand, we have to have a complete integral understanding of Krishna. So becoming Krishna conscious means being conscious of both these aspects of Krishna. How Krishna, there are so many names of Krishna in relation to Dharma, and so many names of Krishna in relation to the word, in relation to Bhakti also. So I will send those names in that email loop. So therefore, we see that Krishna appeared in the Yadu dynasty in order to please, in order to make Maharaj Yadu famous because he was a Dharmashila, or in order to make Yudhishthira Maharaj famous because he was a Dharmashila. And the same when the Yadu Kumaras, when they did not follow the dharma of respecting the Brahmanas. So Krishna did not protect the Yadu dynasty. Let's say when we recite this verse, Namo Brahmanya Devaya Go Brahmana Hitaya Cha, Krishna demonstrated how he is the protector of the Brahmanas and the cows. In the Kaliya Leela, he demonstrated how he is the protector of the cows. And there are so many instances, other instances like the disappearance. Mausha Leela is also, which is a demonstration of how Krishna respects the Brahmanas. It is described that the Yadu dynasty had 38,800,000 teachers just to educate the children of the Yadu dynasty. You can imagine such a big dynasty. But Krishna did not protect the Yadu dynasty because he wanted to give importance that the words of the Brahmanas should not become untrue. Why he gave importance to the words of the Brahmanas not to become untrue? Because the quality of the Brahmanas is that the Brahmanas are loyal to Dharma. The Brahmanas are not loyal to any person or an institution. A true Brahmana is loyal to Dharma. So because Brahmanas are loyal to Dharma, when the Brahmanas have given certain word, Krishna did not want those words to become untrue. So therefore, he did not, although he had the power to counterattack that curse, he did not counterattack that curse of the Brahmanas. Yeah, next verse. So what I will do is that I will take up, today I will continuously go through it. I was told to end by 12:45. So last 5-7 minutes I will take up questions. Apare vasudevasya devakyam yachitobhyagat ajastvam asya kshemaya vadaya cha suradvisham. So Queen Kunti says that according to some people, they say that you appeared the son of Vasudev and Devaki upon their request. Although you are unborn, you appeared in this world because of the request of Vasudev and Devaki. Ajastvam asya kshemaya, in order to protect the world, and suradvisham, vadaya suradvisham, in order to kill the demons. So Sutapa and Prishni, they asked the Lord to be their son, and therefore Krishna appeared for protecting the world and killing the demons. And then she says, Bharavatara nayanye bhuvo nava ivodadau sidantya bhuri barena jato hyatma bhavartadaha. The video is stopped. My video is on only. Video is on only. I don't know. Okay. So, according to other people's opinion, that you appeared in this world because of the request of Brahma. That Atma Bhuvartitaha. Atma Bhu refers to Brahma. So Prabhupada comments on the word Atma Bhu, that Krishna did not need the help of Lakshmi Devi in order to actually beget Brahma. Krishna is Brahma was directly born from the navel of Lord Vishnu. That is the difference between Narayan and Jiva. Narayan has all the potencies of all the senses in all the parts of his transcendental body. But for a living entity, for procreation, like he needs a specific organ, he needs the help of another person. But Krishna is not like that. And then, so Krishna appeared at the request of Brahma for removing the burden of the earth. Bharavatara Nayanye Bhuvo Nama Yivodadav. And the Bhumi has actually sunk like a boat overloaded with the weight. Means like because the demoniac kings. And then she says, Bhavesmin Klishyamananam Avidya Kama Karma Bhi Shravana Smaranarhani Karishyan Iti Kechana. And some people say that you have appeared in this world in order to help the suffering people. Bhavesmin Klishyamananam. Some people say that you appeared in this world in order to help the suffering people who are suffering due to their actions arising from avidya, kama and karma. Who are suffering because of their actions arising from material desires which arise from ignorance. So avidya leads to kama and kama leads to different material actions, and then that avidya leads to kama, kama leads to karma, and karma leads to klishya, different sufferings. And Shravana Smaranarhani Karishyan Iti Kechana. Shravana Smaranarhani Karishyan Iti Kechana. So how do you relieve the suffering of the people? People's suffering will be relieved when they actually hear and remember about you. By engaging them in hearing and chanting and remembering you, that they will be freed from the suffering. So therefore, Vishwanath Chakravarti says that this is the real reason for the Lord's appearance. Of course, the previous reasons are also the reasons for the Lord's appearance. So if you see, one of the quality of the Lord is that, like even in the Bhagavad Gita, Prabhupada says the real reason for the Lord's appearance is that he wants to reciprocate with his pure devotees. Because killing of the demons, establishment of dharma can be done even by his representatives, etc. And Chaitanya Charitamrita talks about the internal reason for Mahaprabhu's appearance and the external reasons of Mahaprabhu's appearance. So when you talk about the internal reasons, like Krishna is reciprocating with his devotees, or the internal reason of Mahaprabhu's appearance is that he wanted to taste Srimati Radharani's love, experience her, understand the glory of her love. So then, does that mean that the external reasons are they are not to be there? They have to be taken as false or something? No, the external reasons are also there. Internal reasons are also there. Internal reasons are mainly meant for the devotees, but the external reasons are the reasons for the common people. Common people cannot understand the internal reason for the Lord's appearance. So the Lord appears to fulfill both the internal reason and the external reason. External reason is like an official reason. As an Yugavatara, he has to establish the Yuga Dharma. It's like an official reason. But the internal reason is like Krishna wanted to understand, oh, what is it in me which is attracting the devotees to perform devotional service to me. It is born out of introspection. So, but the beauty of the Lord is that he harmonizes both the internal reason as well as the external reason. Like while reciprocating with his different devotees, Krishna also performs the external reason for his appearance, that is to establish dharma. So that is why Krishna himself actually demonstrated how, like we discussed last time also, I think Shamlila Prabhu asked that question, that why nowadays there's so much emphasis on dharma. No, actually bhakti is also one dharma only. Bhakti is the highest dharma. Tavai pumsam paro dharma yato bhaktir adokshaje. So it is not that we have to always see from a shastric point of view. Like in the Bhagavad Gita, Bhagavad Gita is meant for all the common people, for every devotee, everyone. The main theme of the Bhagavad Gita is Mam Anusmara Yudhyacha. You balance between remembrance of me and also your Varnashram duty of fighting this battle. And Krishna himself demonstrated that his external reason for the appearance of appearing in this world, that is like the establishing dharma. Establishing dharma, killing the different demons. And the internal reason for Krishna's appearance is to reciprocate with his pure devotees. That's a very personal thing. And Krishna balanced both. Even in the battle of Kurukshetra, when Krishna was there in the battle of Kurukshetra, Krishna was remembering Srimati Radharani. So that's why once one devotee asked Prabhupada, why have you named this deity as Radha Partha Sarathi? In Delhi, the deity. The Prabhupada said, like, the devotee asked, where is Radharani in the battlefield of Kurukshetra? So Prabhupada said, how can Radharani not be with Krishna even in the battlefield of Kurukshetra? Even in the battlefield of Kurukshetra, Krishna is always remembering Srimati Radharani. So Krishna was remembering the residents of Vrindavan. At the same time, he was performing his reason. He was performing his dharma he was performing his role of establishing dharma by giving guidance to Arjuna in the battlefield of Kurukshetra. In that way, Krishna himself demonstrated how the bhakti and dharma have to be harmonized. Mam Anusmara Yudhyacha. In our case, Mam Anusmara Yudhyacha means remember Krishna and perform our duties. In the case of Krishna, Mam Anusmara Yudhyacha means Krishna was remembering his residents of Vrindavan, at the same time performing his role of actually establishing dharma. So, going to the next verse, 36th verse. Shrinvanti gayanti grinantya bhikshnasha smaranti nandanti tavehitam jana tayeva pashyantya chirena tavakam bhava pravaho paramam padambujam. So Queen Kunti says that persons who constantly hear, sing, speak, remember and sing to others about your activities, they alone, without delay, are able to see your lotus feet. Ta eva pashyanti achirena tavakam. With achirena means without delay. Ta eva, only those people, pashyanti, are able to see your lotus feet. Tavakam, bhava pravaho paramam padambujam. What is the nature of your lotus feet? Bhava pravaha. Pravaha means a flow. Bhaktim muhu pravahatam. Pravaha means a continuous flow. So bhava pravaha, that means here it refers, bhava refers to the material ocean. The ocean of material existence is so continuous, it's practically difficult to come out of this ocean. But bhava pravaho uparamam padambujam. But when people who are engaged constantly in hearing, chanting, remembering, etc., they are able to see your lotus feet, which destroy the influence of material existence, which is almost continuous, practically difficult to get out. So achirena means without delay, not after a long time. So therefore, Prabhupada translates this verse as, those who continuously hear, chant and repeat your actions or take pleasure in others doing so. Take pleasure in others doing so, they also constantly see your lotus feet. So therefore, that even when we actually take pleasure in others' devotional service, that is also actually that is also as well as devotional service. So sometimes we may not be able to do something, but somebody else has rendered better service. If we take pleasure in others doing so, that can be possible when a person is without envy. And when we do that, one can make more advancement than that other person who has done that service. Without envy, when we try to actually truly appreciate others' contribution, by that one can make more advancement than the advancement of the other person. Because Krishna sees that how the devotee is truly taking pleasure. So now, after describing, so 32 to 35, Kunti described about the various reasons for Krishna's appearance. And then 36th verse, Queen Kunti spoke about how those who hear, chant and remember, they can see Krishna's lotus feet very soon without delay. Now in the next 37 to 42, in 6 verses, that Queen Kunti is making an appeal to Krishna. Apyadyanastvam swakrute hita prabho jigha sasisvit suhrudo jivina yesham na chanyad bhavata padambujat parayanam rajasu yojitam hasam. Yeah, was one point Prabhupada writes in the previous purport, that each and every one of the transcendental activities of the Lord is competent to bestow the desired result, provided the hearing process is perfect. Like even if a person attains perfect in one of the activity of bhakti, one can actually become perfect in devotional service. Just like when you are cooking rice, when you just check one particle of rice, whether it is cooked. If one particle of rice is cooked, by that you can understand the whole vessel is cooked, whole rice is cooked. Similarly, even if a person attains perfection in one activity of bhakti, by that he can actually attain perfection in all the activities of bhakti. So Queen Kunti says that apyadya nastvam swakrute hita prabhu. Like your deeds are automatically accomplished. That means swakrute hita, that means like when you desire something, by that you can accomplish your desires. Why do you desire to leave us today, and why do you desire to go to Dwaraka? So Krishna says that, but I have stayed here in Hastinapura for so many days, I must go to Dwaraka. I have some necessary work in Dwaraka. Please give your permission to go to Dwaraka. Then Queen Kunti says that you are swakrite hita, you are the person whose necessary works are already accomplished. Upanishads say that parasya shaktir vividaiva shruyate swabhaviki jnana bala kriyacha. There are so many energies are actually ready to accomplish the Lord's desires, that as soon as the Lord, the energies get a slight indication, all these different Shaktis of the Lord, they immediately accomplish the Lord's desires without the Lord making a conscious effort to do that. Prabhupada was explaining this verse. He gives an example. Suppose sometimes you feel an itching sensation in your back. So when you feel an itching sensation, that it's not that you consciously put an effort to like scratch your back. Many times you are doing other thing, but unconsciously your hand goes and that scratches the back, and you may not even realize that. So similarly, there are so many Shaktis are ready to actually accomplish the Lord's desires, that just by the desire that Lord does not have to personally do something. They are like all the Shaktis accomplish the desire of the Lord. Swakrute Hita means that like you are the person whose necessary works are already accomplished. So you don't have to go to Dwaraka and personally do the different activities. So Swakrita Hita means was self-accomplisher. And then they say that Queen Kunti says that Jihasasis with Suhrudo Anujivinaha. Anujivinaha means we depend on you. Why do you desire to reject us today? Because we depend on you. And Yeshamna Chanyat Bhavata Padambujat Parayanam Rajasu Yojitam Hasam. And we have created trouble with many kings. After this battle is over, there are so many kings who are still envious of us, and therefore we have no other shelter. We have no other shelter than your lotus feet. So Queen Kunti is expressing her dependence on Krishna. So Prabhupada in the purport, he talks about the concept of Anatha and Sanatha. Anatha means one who is without any guardian, and Sanatha means having who has somebody as a guardian. For the Pandavas, separation from the Lord is like a fish without water. And for Kunti Devi, separation from the Lord is like it's like a thunderbolt falling upon her. So she is saying that although the inimical kings are killed, but their sons and grandsons were still there to deal with the Pandavas. So therefore, that here Prabhupada explains that the highest goal or achievement of human civilization is to work hard under the guidance of the Lord and work with valor, but at the same time completely depend on the Lord. So this was the main point of this verse, is that depending on the Lord. So depending on the Lord means, it does not mean that you become a lazy person. That's why Prabhupada says that the Pandavas were not idle parasites. In that episode of Duryodhana and Arjuna coming to Krishna, and Duryodhana asked for the Narayana Sena. Arjuna asked first. Arjuna got the first chance. Arjuna asked for Krishna, you come to my side. I don't want the Narayana Sena. And then Krishna gave the Narayana Sena to Duryodhana. And then Krishna asked Arjuna, like, why did you not ask for the Narayana Sena? It will be very helpful for your battle. Why did you not ask for the Narayana Sena? So Arjuna said, oh, I don't need that Narayana Sena. I have my own weapons. I can easily win the battle. What I need is, I need your relationship. I need your relationship more than the Narayan Sena, because I have acquired so many weapons. I can easily deal with this Kaurava Sena. So you see, like dependence on the Lord, it does not mean that you don't acquire your skill, or you don't put effort to. It does not mean that you don't put effort to acquire resources, or you don't. It is not that dependence on the Lord. It does not mean that you don't put effort to to climb on the corporate ladder, or to become a better student, etc. So dependence on the Lord means we put our effort to excel, but while understanding that ultimately everything depends on Krishna's mercy. At the same time, being completely dependent on the Lord. Like for example, same Arjuna in the 15th chapter, after Krishna's disappearance, he says that the great generals like Bhishma, Drona, Karna, and all directed their invincible weapons against me. But by Krishna's grace, they could not even touch a hair on my head. Just as the demons could not affect Prahlad Maharaj. with the weapons they used against him. So he's giving this analogy, like Bhishma and Drona could not even touch the hair on my head, just like the demons could not like attack the Prahlad Maharaj with all their weapons. But in this analogy, in the case of Prahlad Maharaj, he did not put any effort because he was just a 5-year-old child. He did not put any effort on his part to fight against the weapons sent by the demons. And Prahlad Maharaj simply with his folded hands, he would pray to the Lord, and the Lord would protect Prahlad Maharaj from the different terrible circumstances. But in the case of Arjuna, in the battlefield, he was putting his full effort to fight against Bhishma, Drona, Kripa, etc. But although he was putting his full effort, but Arjuna's consciousness is that only because of Krishna that these generals could not even actually touch even a slight hair on my head. So this is what it means to be dependence. That means you become your, you put your full purushartha, you put your full endeavor, but in your heart of heart you depend on Krishna. That everything depends on Krishna's mercy. So that's what Prabhupada is mentioning. And then next verse, Kevayam nama rupabhyam yadubhisaka pandava bhavato darshanam yarhi rishikanam iveshituhu. So Kunti says that without your presence, who are we, the Pandavas, along with the Yadus, with their fame and strength? We are like the senses without the Jiva. Rishikanam iveshituhu. So Krishna is telling Kunti, Bhima is there, Arjuna is there, they are so powerful. Why are you afraid of the inimical kings and their sons and grandsons? You don't need me. You have the Bhima and Arjuna, they are so powerful. And Yudhishthira is Dharma personified, and Yadavas are your friends. You don't have to worry. You don't need me. Then in response, Kunti says that actually, who are we Pandavas along with the Yadus without your presence? Just like without the presence of the Jiva, the senses have no significance or power. Like Arjuna also spoke the similar verse, Yasya kshana viyogena lokohya priyadarshanaha uktena rahito hyesha mritaka prochate yata. I have just lost Krishna, whose separation for a moment would render all the universes unfavorable and void like bodies without life. And this verse comes in the 15th chapter. And then Kunti says in the next verse, so Prabhupada says that no one should be proud of his prestige, power and fame without being guided by the favor of the Supreme Lord. Neyam sobhishyate tatra yatedanim gadadara tvatpadairankita bhati swalakshana vilakshitai. So Gadadara, O holder of the club, when you go, this land which is marked with your footprints will not glow as it does now. Na ayam sobhishyate tatra yata idanim gadadara. Sobhishyate, this land is so, it is actually so effulgent, being decorated with your footprints. But if you leave, we would be bereft of, we are afraid that there will be ill luck in the absence of you. So Queen Kunti is saying that because of your presence, the kingdom of the Pandavas is actually flourishing. Further, she says in the next verse, Ime janapada svruddha supakaushadi virudah vanadri nadyudanvanto hedante tava vikshitai. In the previous verse, she spoke about when the land is decorated with the footprints of Krishna, and the Ushna Chakratipad also talks about in the Rasa Panchadhyay when the gopis were searching for Krishna. At a particular point, they see the footprints. They saw two set of footprints, Krishna's footprints and Srimati Radharani's footprints. And he explains in detail what are the different markings on Krishna's footprint and what does each of the different marking, what does it mean? What is the meaning of those? What is the philosophical significance of those markings? Now, we may read in the 10th canto purports. We'll not go into that. But here in the 40th verse, Queen Kunti speaks about the glance of Krishna. Tava vikshitai. Because of your glance, our land is so prosperous. This land is filled with ripe herbs and fruit-laden trees, forests, mountains, I hope you are able to hear. Hare Krishna. Can you hear? Okay. So here Queen Kunti says that because of your glance, our land is so prosperous with the different fruits and everything is growing on so properly. So Prabhupada here in this purport, he talks about the industrial products and the natural prosperity. So he talks about the industrial products and the natural prosperity. He says the industrial products are the products of godless civilization and they cause the destruction of the noble aim of human life. And they squeeze out vital energy of human being are more unrest and dissatisfaction of people. Only a few people can live lavishly by the exploitation. The natural law is that the human being may take advantage of these godly gifts of nature and satisfactorily flourish on them without exploiting nature. If you see, like even during this coronavirus, this one, like one other thing the Prime Minister Modi mentioned was that he talked about self-reliance is the mantra of the current time, Atma Nirbharata. And that is what Prabhupada told so many years back. The purpose of Varnashram is to actually to become self-sufficient, to reduce our dependence on others. In the first canto purport, Prabhupada says that over-dependence on another's mercy saps the very vitality of human energy. So in one sense, the purpose of Varnashram is to decrease our dependence on others. And why we want to become independent? So that we can offer that independence to Krishna. So of course, therefore, like this point was told by Prabhupada long back, but now the COVID pandemic has actually made it, has forced us to think in this way. So therefore, that so natural gifts are actually dependent on the Lord's mercy. Kunti desires that Krishna's mercy be bestowed upon them so that the natural prosperity be maintained by his grace. There are several verses which talk about the important natural prosperity. So then next verse, Ata Vishvesha Vishvatman Vishvamurte Swakeshu Me Sneka Pasham Imam Chindi, Dridam Pandushu Vrishnishu. So in these verses, as I mentioned from verse number 37 to 42, the main appeal of Kunti is that please do not leave, because so many kings are in enmity with us, or the land is glowing because of the being decorated with the footprints of you, or because of the glance upon you on our land is so prosperous. So if you leave, our land will lose its prosperity. So she appealed like that in the last 3 verses. But now in this verse, she says, O Vishwatman, O Vishvesha, Vishvesha, Vishwatman, Vishwamurte. So these are 3 words which Kunti uses to address Krishna. O form of all the universe, O life of all the universe, O Lord of all the universe. And Sneha Pasham Imam Chindi Dridam Pandushu Vrishnishu. Please cut my strong bonds of affection for my relatives, the Pandavas and the Yadavas. So in this particular verse, suddenly her mood changes. The last 3 verses she has been speaking that please do not leave us. And suddenly she says that please cut off my affection towards the Pandavas and the Yadavas. Because Kunti felt that, oh Krishna, if he stays here, but my parental family Yadavas, they would be in separation of Krishna. And if Krishna goes to the Dwaraka, then my sons Pandavas would be in separation of Krishna. So either way, because I have my attachment towards my sons as well as my paternal family, and both would be suffering. So both your departure from here and coming here, both are unfortunate. Therefore, Queen Kunti ends up asking that, please she is disturbed in her mind, and therefore she is praying that, please cut off my ties of affection with both the parties. So because I am having ties of affection towards the Pandavas as well as the Yadavas, so therefore I am feeling disturbed by the thought of whether you staying here or by leaving from here to go to Dwaraka. So my disturbance will go away if my attachment towards the Pandavas and Yadavas is cut off. So therefore I pray that please cut off my affection towards the Pandavas and the Yadavas. So Prabhupada writes here, Queen Kunti desired Krishna to remain with the Pandavas, but by her parental family would be bereft of Krishna. Yeah, he mentioned the same point. So this is a very beautiful purport. It's an important purport. So here, that till the 40th verse, Queen Kunti was asking favor for the Pandavas. Generally, pure devotees are ashamed to ask anything in self-interest. But the householders are sometimes obliged to ask some favor from the Lord, because of being bound by the family affection. So Queen Kunti also being bound by the family affection, therefore she asked favor to Krishna that please stay here, do not leave. But then her family affection toward the Yadavas also, it created a disturbance. So here Queen Kunti is praying that please make me detached from the family affection. So here Prabhupada writes such a brilliant purport. A pure devotee cuts off the limited ties of affection for his family and widens his activities of devotional service for all forgotten souls. So to cut off family affection means to broaden the field of activities. It means to accept a larger family, to accept the whole world as the family. So it is not about actually cutting off one's family. It is about increasing accepting a larger family. Therefore, like those who cut off their family affection, if they don't engage in the contribution of a larger society, then the reaction for giving up that responsibility will definitely come to the person. Therefore, the difference between a escapist devotee, he escapes the responsibilities, but he does not take up a higher responsibility. So, just but the but a but a devotee who widens his field of activities, he gives up a certain responsibility for the sake of actually serving the larger family, for accepting the whole world as a family. And without doing this, no one can be qualified as a Brahmana, a king, a public leader, or a devotee of the Lord. So especially for a king or any public leader, anybody in the leadership position, their responsibility towards the greater society that takes precedence over the responsibility towards the smaller family. Whether a Brahmana or a sannyasi or a king or any public leader, the main characteristic is that the nation comes first, the society comes first, and then comes the family. But for an individual householder, like for him, it is important to who is not in a leadership position, like for him, the responsibility towards the family, that becomes important. But for a person in the leadership, this one, that the higher responsibility takes precedence over the responsibility towards the one's individual family. And two examples are given by Prabhupada, the 6 Goswamis. That 6 Goswamis, they renounced everything, but they, in order to serve the greater society. And Lord Ram, he cut off the tie of affection for his beloved wife in order to manifest the qualities of an ideal king. So we discussed the example when we discussed like few weeks back when I was discussing the Shakuntala Dushyant episode also. Because many times people criticize the character of Lord Ram. Lord Ram, Ramayana is a scripture which is a scripture in which only people were abused. Lord Ram abused Sita, Lord Ram abused Lakshman, Kaikeyi abused Lord Ram. Ramayana is a book of abuse. So when they talk about Sita's Agni Pariksha, Lord Ram sending Sita to Valmiki Ashram, so because most of the people, like, we don't try to put ourselves in the shoes of the king. Most of us, we don't have a higher responsibility, we just have a smaller responsibility, say within a family, or it's a particular smaller role in a, say, company or something. So when we try to understand Lord Ram, this one, we have to put ourselves in the shoes of a king, what it means to be a king. For a king, the responsibility as a king for setting a right example for the citizens, that becomes a higher responsibility than the one's individual responsibility towards the wife or the children. So therefore, that here Prabhupada is talking about this cutting of the family affection means broadening one's field of activities. Broadening one's field of activities. So therefore, if somebody cuts off the family, but if he does not broaden the field of activities, then that the reaction of cutting of the family or reaction of giving of that particular responsibility will keep actually following that person. So therefore, so Prabhupada says that Lord is addressed as the Lord of the universe or the Lord of the universal mind, indicating, Queen Kunti is addressing like that. By that he is indicating that you have the ability to cut the hard knot of family affection. Because you are the Lord of the universe, you have the ability to cut the hard knot of family affection. And Vishnu Chakravarti says in the purport, he says that in fact, of course, he writes in the next verse purport. It will come in the next verse. So we'll discuss the next verse in detail tomorrow. Tomorrow we will definitely complete this chapter, and we'll start the 9th chapter also. So since it's 12:40, I will end. So whatever questions are there, I'll take us some questions now. Tribanga Gopal Prabhu, for Pandavas, separation from the Lord was just like the separation of a fish from water. But Srimati Radharani felt separation like a thunderbolt. Yet Lord stayed back only after the request of Yudhishthir and not Kunti. You kindly explain the tattva behind this Leela of Lord's reciprocation. Actually, if you see, Lord stayed back after the request of Yudhishthira Maharaj. In the Kunti's prayer, she prayed for Lord to stay back, but as the prayers progressed, she didn't actually ask for that because she herself was disturbed. Oh, if Krishna stays back, Yadavas would be in separation. Therefore, Queen Kunti, finally what she prayed was that she began her prayers began with the mood of Krishna should stay back. And that is what she expressed the 37, 38, 39 verses. But finally what she prayed is that please cut off my family affection and let my consciousness be focused on you without any distraction. That is what finally she prayed. So that was the final request of Kunti. But then Yudhishthira Maharaj requested Krishna, please stay for more days. Therefore, Krishna stayed back. How to understand the glance of Krishna, which is very powerful. Can you please throw more light on this? May we know more examples from the Shastra where Krishna glanced on the devotees and they felt jubilant. There's a verse in the 10th canto, 13th chapter, in the Brahma Vimohan Leela, when Shukadeva Goswami describes the Vishnu forms, Chandrika Vishada Smerai, like that the verse begins. All these Vishnu forms are described as they were increasing the desire. They were like when a person all these Vishnu forms, they were creating desire in the heart of a devotee to render devotional service. Just like mode of passion creates something, similarly the Vishnu taking darshan of the glance of the Lord, by the glance the Lord Vishnu actually creates desires in the hearts of the people to render service to him. And then by his smile, by the smile, the Lord actually maintains the desires of the devotee to render service to him. Just like Sattva Guna maintains, Raja Guna creates, and by his glance, Lord created in the hearts of the people to render service to him, and by his actually smile, he maintains those desires. So that is why when one of the reason why we regularly go in front of the deities to take darshan of the deities, because when we take darshan of the deities, when the Lord glances upon us, by that he creates desires in us to render service unto him. And by his smile, he maintains those desires. This is another verse which came to my mind. Bhakti susukam kartum avyayam, but calamities in lives of devotees is seen Kunti, Pandavas, Prahlad, Acharyas. How do we say that Bhakti susukam kartum avyayam? Moreover, Krishna is telling this to Arjuna, who underwent so many troubles while being a devotee. So that's why there is a human level. We see the human aspect of the Pandavas in the Mahabharata, how they underwent so many difficulties. So when they actually go through when the Krishna gives difficulties to the devotees, and in order to actually, in order to glorify those devotees, how they actually respond in those difficult circumstances, how they respond in those difficult circumstances, and so otherwise we would not actually understand the glories of those devotees. Yeah, definitely when Abhimanyu died, Arjuna was actually crying. Arjuna was lamenting, but he did not give the service to Krishna. So that is a human emotion, which is also centered around Krishna. So therefore, like, devotional service means all kinds of emotions are there. In the Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu, talks about different types of symptoms of ecstasy, Vyabhichari, different 33 types of Vyabhichari Bhava, laughing, crying, and so many different symptoms. But like even Rupa Goswami says in Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu, like Ramayana is filled with crying only, right from beginning to end, it is filled with crying. But when the devotees cry, but they experience a transcendental pleasure from within. So he says that like although Ramayana is filled with crying, but one should understand that the devotees are experiencing ecstasy within. It is like, for example, Nimbu fool and sugar, they appear to be same, but the Nimbu fool and sugar are completely different. When you put Nimbu fool in the milk will get split. So similarly, the suffering of a non-devotee and the suffering of a devotee, they both appear to be same, but when the devotee suffers, like especially in the case of the perfected devotees like the Prahlad and the Pandavas, when they suffer, they remember Krishna, and because of remembrance of Krishna, they are actually experiencing ecstasy within. Or another example is like the ice. When you touch a fire, you immediately feel burnt, and then you immediately remove your hand. And when you touch a very cold ice also, so immediately you actually felt a repulsion. You feel a repulsion, and then you immediately remove the hand from the cold ice. So in one sense, the reaction of touching the fire and the cold ice is same, but although the constituent of the cold ice and the fire are completely different. So similarly, when the pure devotees like Prahlad and the Pandavas, when they go through difficulties, when they go through calamities, they appear to be suffering, but because they are remembering Krishna, therefore it is completely different from the suffering of the common people. So it is 12:49. We'll just quickly go through. Those who give up family connection, if they don't take up a higher responsibility, they will get reaction. What the Shastric reference for this statement? There is Prabhupada's statement, Prabhupada's purport, which I went through, that cutting of the family relation means broadening one's field of activities. Family responsibility means you are supposed to do some certain duty. If you give up the duty, that means you are performing sin. So unless you do this for a higher purpose, otherwise that reaction will definitely come. So for a Bhajananandi devotee, for those devotees, sages who go to Himalayas, Bharat Maharaj, etc., they didn't do any higher responsibility for delivering the fallen souls. They were to get reaction for giving the family ties. Bharat Maharaj renounced his family. It was a Vanaprastha ashram. After going through the particular Grahastha ashram. That is why when we talk about the principle of renunciation, you may go through this purport in 4th Canto, 31st chapter, 1st verse, that a person can renounce when the right time has come, or when a person has developed a genuine calling for the Lord. When a person has developed a genuine calling for the Lord, when a person has felt a genuine, like, it should not be a calling in the mode of passion, in the sense that Krishna says that dukkam ityeva yat karma kaya klesha bhayat tyajet sakritva rajasam tyagam. One who gives up certain things, gives up certain duties because of the difficulty involved in those duties. Such a renunciation is in the mode of passion. But when a person gives up certain responsibility because of a genuine attraction for a higher purpose, then that is not actually the same. That is all right. Or when a person gives up as after accomplishing his duties when the right time has come, that's all right. Yeah, even say, even Bharat Maharaj, he was doing the bhajan, but even that was also like being a bhajananandi, going to the forest and then performing their bhajan. In one sense, that is also a preaching also, because when somebody gives up the, like in the case of a Bharat Maharaj, like a king, when they give up their opulence, when they went to the forest with the sole purpose of performing devotional service, by that they are declaring to the whole world about the importance of say Krishna Bhakti at a particular point of time. One has to give full focus on that. So they are declaring the importance of spiritual life. So by that they are also preaching to the other people. So if that mood is there, even when they are doing their focus on their bhajan, then that is also preaching. Like the Gaur Krishna Babaji Maharaj was completely engaged in his bhajan. So I'll just take up this question of this Mataji. This will end, and then I'll take up other questions later. After Sita Mata comes back from Valmiki Ashram, by the time Ayodhya Vasis wanted Sita Mata back out of regret, but she was still asked to prove her chastity by Lord Ram for the Praja, even though Lava Kush already spoke the Ramayana written by Valmiki Rishi. Valmiki himself said she was in his ashram only. If Lord would have accepted her without further pariksha at that time, after she came back, she would not have gone through so much of stress and anxiety and gone inside Mother Earth like she did. I'm not aware of this particular instance. Because Lord Ram, Sita had to undergo Agni Pariksha after the killing of Ravana. But this instance, I'm not aware that Sita was told to prove her purity. Uh, what I remember hearing was that at that time when the Ayodhya was regretted, but then Mother Sita, that time the earth actually opened and then Sita entered the earth. I don't know, I'm not sure, at least I have to check that whether Lord Ram told Sita to prove her purity. Sita wasn't accepted as Lavkush were accepted in Ayodhya. No, I'll have to check that. Maybe I have to go through that part of Ramayana. I'll come back on this question tomorrow. So whatever the remaining questions which are unanswered, some question of Bhakti Vaibhav Prabhu, I'll take up tomorrow because it's 12:55. So Grantra Srimad Bhagavatam ki Srila Prabhupada ki Jai. Thank you for your patient attention.